your host, Chad Cook. With us, as always, is Marcus Shockley from BasketballElite.com. We also have another special guest, and we will introduce her in one moment. But first, Marcus, I know, being from the North Carolina area, you know Alaric Freeman. Tell us the news about Alaric.
Well, the big news is that he has announced his commitment to UCLA. And being a North Carolina guy, I'd hoped that either myself or one of my scouts might be the first guy to find out, but that's not what he decided to do to call any of us. He decided to announce it over Twitter where he was going. So two big things for him over the summer: moving to Findlay Prep, and then also committing to UCLA, announcing it over social media.
Yes, and that brings up the topic for today. Our very special guest is Shanna Bright with Beaming Bohemian, which is an unconventionally brilliant communication, infusing brand communications with positivity and purpose, and empowering you to build meaningful personal brands which connect and inspire people. That's a mouthful. And Shanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, and I look forward to hearing your take on social media and how high school, college athletes, coaches, and people of all kinds that want to present themselves in a positive light, what you can tell them and what you can share with them to do that. So why don't you dive right in?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's an opportunity really for both sides of the fence to kind of understand that there are a number of communication tools through social media that you can use not only to enhance your personal brand, but also for the college athletic programs to really promote your program, promote your team, promote your sport. And certainly we have a whole host. We could talk for hours probably about the variety of student athletes, both at the high school and the college level, who are using social media well, but those who just haven't really gotten a grasp around, the medium yet and aren't really using it in a positive and purposeful way.
Well, give us an example of a student athlete who has really used the medium very well.
Sure. There's a lot of exciting things happening out of USC right now. Actually, their quarterback, Matt Barkley, is the first college athlete who's been verified on Twitter. And that's pretty significant. I mean, this is kind of like the dream athlete. He's promoting other sports on campus. He's uplifting his teammates. He's always saying something that's in the positive, which is great. And so he's naturally kind of attractive because he's giving, an inside view of what it's like to be the quarterback at USC. But at the same time, he's community oriented. He's a good friend. He's, a good family guy. So he's really just a positive example for student athletes to follow. On the negative side, the high school student athletes, I don't know if you remember Uri Wright, but he was the top recruit in the nation. And, everything looked great for him. He was being scouted by Michigan. And unfortunately, his tweets, which were both racially and sexually explicit, landed him in hot water. Michigan pulled their interest and said, no, thank you. He actually was expelled from his high school. The good news for him is that his career didn't end, and Colorado decided to go ahead and take him. And there was actually an article in the last couple of weeks where they kind of caught back up with him and said, how are you doing? And he said, I really learned my lesson, and I absolutely understand how powerful these communication tools are and how it can actually really help you or really hurt you. And I think that's the significant lesson for the student athletes.
Yeah, and Matt Barkley, quarterback, USC, it doesn't take a genius to project where his future goes. Probably make a lot of money playing the game. And but correct me if I'm wrong, or let me get your opinion on this. I think that the athlete at the maybe non-revenue generating sport level, or just a regular student athlete who isn't going to get paid big money to play the game one day, can also get a lot out of these same techniques that using social media well. And where I'm going with that is I've heard that that the best thing about college, some of the best things about college are networking and finding new people and meeting as many people as you can, and then you take those relationships with you throughout life. So if you're practicing at a very young age, presenting yourself the way you want to be seen and thinking about it ahead of time and trying to use it to your advantage, that's got to be a great practice, whether you're going to be a pro athlete or a pro teacher, professional teacher, a professional business person. What's your take on that?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the LA Times reported, I think it was at the end of July, that 92% of hiring managers are using social media in the employment recruitment process. And this is significant because of what you mentioned. Not every single athlete is going to end up in the pros, but the employment trends are showing that more and more hiring managers are actually looking through social media, not only to find people and the correct talent on LinkedIn, but also to look at what is your character, what are you posting online, what is your personality, and if you have an interview with somebody and that hiring manager goes right to your Facebook or your Twitter or your LinkedIn and finds that you don't quite match up, that your online personality doesn't really represent the person that they just met in their office, that's significant. And it's the same for college student athletes, is they have 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever time they have left to use social media actually to build their profile, and exactly what you're saying, to network and really determine, okay, how can I use these to my benefit? How can I represent myself online and promote myself and market my skills so that I can land that great interview and get that great job right out of college?
Great. Well, tell us about your event coming up on October 11th.
The event is called The Role of Social Media in College Athletic Recruitment. And I'm so pleased to host this event. One of my event partners is the San Diego Hall of Champions. This is a sports museum in historic Balboa Park, which is near downtown San Diego. Balboa Park was, in the early 1900s, it was the World Fair site, but they have this wonderful sports museum, the Hall of Champions. We have a list of guest speakers that are just phenomenal. We're meeting with Carmen Bucci, who is a professional recruiter with NCSA. He was actually a former Padre and a scout with the Texas Rangers for a few years, but is also going to be pulling from the social media team within NCSA. We also have the privilege of hearing from Jim Trotter, who's a senior writer with Sports Illustrated. Also, the marketing and communications director from the San Diego Hall of Champions. They have a Champions Academy, which is like a leadership academy for student athletes in the San Diego area. So we have a great lineup of different professionals with different voices and perspectives, and we look to invite and welcome really the entire San Diego athletic community.
Okay, so with all this talk about social media, I think it would be fun for us to plug a few of Twitter handles that we like and that we follow. I'll go first. From a coaching perspective, I really like Kevin Eastman. He is the assistant coach for the Boston Celtics. I think he puts out 2 tweets per day, and they're very informative for other coaches about, what they should be thinking about, or, just little tips here and there. I really like that. The Bill Walton parody account, to me, is just hilarious. I think it's called Not Bill Walton. And Sports Hernia, very funny stuff. And then a scout is actually a guy who works with you, Marcus, Justin Byerly, the most prolific tweeter that I know. He puts it out there in volume, and you can keep up with the whole Southeast recruiting scene by following Justin Byerly. Do you have any favorites, Marcus?
One guy I like a lot is Adrian Wojnarowski, who's a NBA columnist for Yahoo. A lot of leads. He'll mention something, and then immediately I'll know, something's happening. Garrett Tucker, a friend of mine I like, who's with the Future 150. Garrett is a tireless worker. Garrett is very plugged into the recruiting scene, and a good friend of mine. I really like him a lot. I think everybody who's following recruiting should follow Garrett. There's so many guys, but those 2 guys I follow a lot. I always check their tweets out every day just to see what they've got going on. So.
Okay, so hopefully we'll get out of the basketball world now. Shanna, do you have any favorites?
I do actually. I'll give you my one basketball. It's also a shout out to UCSB. Being a Gaucho, I have to have a little bit of Gaucho pride. So I'll shout out to Orlando Johnson, who is the new Indiana Pacer. He's at pace_011. He was kind of deemed the most underrated NCAA player, and so he's very excited, and it's kind of fun. His tweets are kind of fun. On the recruitment aspect, I'll say to follow NCSA, because they obviously are putting out great information in terms of NCAA rules and regulations, personal branding, and just, a good positive reinforcement. And then there's also a great organization that was founded out of Stanford University, their athletic department, called Positive Coaching Alliance. They're working with parents, coaches, and youth sports, and they're really working to kind of enjoy the game again, not about the numbers on the scoreboard, but about the life and leadership skills that you can learn on the field. Who is not in the basketball world, but I think is another positive example, is Larry Fitzgerald of the Cardinals. He is very involved in charity work during October, during the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. His mother, I believe, died of breast cancer about 6 or 7 years ago. And so he, in fact, last year he did a phenomenal thing where he, for every new follower, he was going to donate $1. And then for every touchdown, it was $10,000. So he ended up donating, I think, over $35,000 to breast cancer awareness. And that's a really wonderful way to use these mediums as well, especially if you're as famous, as some of these professional athletes and have a strong following. So that's kind of a fun story.
That's a great idea. I just had an idea for the Hoop Show doing some things like, obviously we don't have the budget of Larry Fitzgerald, but I like that. I like that. Okay, well, before we go, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, Marcus, how it's fall, and obviously everybody is focused on fall basketball leagues because it's fall. Nobody's watching football or anything like that. But so we talked about the J.D. Lewis Fall League. Here where I live in Augusta, there's the Will Avery Fall League. And you've spoken to an organizer of a fall league in your area just recently. Why don't you introduce that, Marcus?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk briefly with Keyshawn Bishop, who's organizing the Blue Chip Basketball Academy. Had a chance to meet with him, get his thoughts on what he was doing and how he was trying to help players get ready for the season. Hi guys, I'm here today with Keyshawn Bishop. Keyshawn is putting together a fall league here in the Winston-Salem and Triad area. And today he's going to tell you a little bit about who should come to the fall league and what you guys should expect. Keyshawn, tell us a little bit about the league itself. This is the first year. Tell us a little bit about what the guys should know who want to come and play this fall.
I do. We are the Blue Chip Basketball Academy. We have a fall league hosted at Forsyth Country Day. One thing we're trying to do is have elite quality programs so we can try to create elite players around the Triad. Our fall league is our first event. The event is mostly for our JV. We have a JV division and our varsity players. We're going to be really focusing on our varsity players, especially our upperclassmen. We're of course going to be trying to have a lot of scouting services out there so we can expose these players as much as possible. So our leagues will be starting on the 15th of September. We'll be playing on Saturdays, roughly late morning, early afternoons, all the way to the October 20th. So we are definitely inviting the most competitive skilled athletes out, those who are trying to be sharp for the season, going into the basketball season. So that's really why we are trying to have this league established for the future as well.
Thanks, Keyshawn. And guys, you should know, you guys are always talking to us about where you should go get exposure. Basketball league's going to be at the league. We're going to be scouting it. This is a good chance for you guys to get good competition before your high school season starts. You guys should be trying to play against competition. These fall leagues are an extremely good way to get that competition right now against guys who are going to be playing again in the high school season coming up. So I hope you guys will check it out. We've got information here. You can also check out Basketball Elite for more information about Keyshawn's league. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us this week on the Hoop Show. Please join us next week, and special thanks to Shanna Bright at beamingbohemian.com, and as always, special thanks to Marcus Shockley as well.